Hey guys, and welcome to today's first impressions video, the video game series in which we look at a recently released game and I give you my first thoughts and impressions on it. Today we're looking at Colonize, The King Requires Your Service, which is the prologue to the full game. With this being a prologue, it is worth bearing in mind that things are subject to change, and I honestly really hope there are things that are going to change. I love city builders, you know I love city builders. I played the ever-loving hell out of Capital, which I covered not too long ago. However, this one is a bit too finicky, a bit too long-winded, and it doesn't really explain anything too great. And obviously with it being a tutorial as well, you can't really save your progress. You just exit and have to start again. But as always, we'll look through the settings, and once we've looked through the settings, we'll jump into the actual game, and I will give you my first thoughts and impressions from there on out. So let's not waste any more time. Okay, settings menu, and straight off the bat, with the general settings, you can see that there is a lot that they need to work on and add. Your general settings is literally language and temperature scale, and for a game as detailed as this, I feel that they could really add some more depth just through this option alone. They could do 24-hour clock or 12-hour clock. They could add a date scale, like so you could start at different times or points in time. They could add different weight. They could add so much more with how detailed this game is. When I saw this, I was a bit shocked. I'm not going to lie. Your controls, pretty standard. You can pretty much do everything with your mouse, although you're probably going to use your WASD key a lot as well. And then your video settings. Again, with how detailed this game is for a top-down sort of city builder, I was a little bit disappointed with how many options there really aren't. But what you do have is you've got your resolution, you've got VSync, you've got AA, shadows, texture quality, ambient occlusion, and grass. Again, they could probably add a bit more, maybe some smoothing here and there. A FOV wouldn't be bad, although one of the things in the game is instead of an FOV, maybe just allowing me to zoom out more, but I'll show you that when we get into the game. And your audio. Now, again, they could add something else in here, and I really wish they would. You've got master, music, sound effects, and ambient sounds. That's it. They do have people talking or muttering or mumbling in the game when you sort of zoom in close to the inns and stuff, but you can hear that muttering throughout. And I don't want to turn off sound effects and lose things like the birds chirping and like the storm effects when they come in. But I also don't want the people talking all the time. It gives you a headache, and it really takes away from the experience of the game, because you want to concentrate on all the awesome sound effects that are in it, but you can't because you're just bombarded with this mumbled people talking all the time. So overall, the options are a good start, and again, this is just a prologue, but definitely needs a bit more love and attention for the full release. Let's see if that's a theme that continues throughout the game. Alright, here we are then. So we're going to start without going through the tutorial because I've already had to do it twice, which brings me to my very first problem with this game. The AI and the AI pathing more particularly is that it's not very good. I went through the tutorial the first time, was building the pig pen, and the AI decided to just constantly walk against a wall, never finishing it, and no other AI came to do the job that they were doing. They just kind of stayed there, didn't do anything. It was really, really odd and very frustrating because, again, had to go through the tutorial all over again to just finish it because there is no save feature because it's a prologue. The tutorial itself is a bit long-winded. It kind of goes through things that it probably doesn't need to. Maybe a skip option per tutorial wouldn't be bad. Like, most people know how to move in game, although some aren't, so having it as just a skip option wouldn't be bad. Then the building. The building is really, really odd because even if you set it to a max priority, it doesn't always do that. And another problem with the tutorial is it wants you to place things in a very specific way. Now, whether I would place them there or not is beside the point. If you try going too far when you're in the tutorial, the screen will actually fight you and make you come back to where it wants you to. Really frustrating. I genuinely thought the game was broken at first, and I wasn't very happy with it. Now the zoom. This is as far out as you can. This is your FOV. You can zoom all the way in, which is nice, but you really can't zoom out any further, and I really wish you could, because I want to see the area that's available to me. I want to see what's going on. And another point with the camera is, if you look at the grass when I turn, it's horrible. It is nauseating. Like, I don't know why they've decided to make it move like that, but it's like you're looking into one of them hypno discs as a kid. Again, not great. And I feel like probably wouldn't be a problem if you could zoom out more. Now, as for the actual building and options that we've got available, there are two things that aren't available in the prologue right now. We've got the militia and we've got the council. Again, apparently going to be really fundamental in the full game, but we don't get to see that here in the prologue. What we do have is we've got buildings, which has production, dwelling, and utilities. One thing I did notice, and I'm not really sure why they've decided to choose this as an image, is a woman breastfeeding. Nothing wrong with that. I don't understand why that's an option as a house. Maybe just a family picture would have been more appropriate, but hey, designer's choice, just a very subjective thing from me. And then we've got your shelter, which is for people. You've got your church. You've got an inn. The game actually suggests that you have 2 inns at any one time, one for night and one for day. This is a very similar sort of theory with Capital that I played as well. You've got your warehouse. You have your cellar, and then you've got your expedition building, so you can send people out to get more resources and stuff. I also want to point out that the trade seems to be a bit bugged. Like, there are a few little bugs in this game where that's expedition, that's information shop, right? So I actually bought some things in the first playthrough I did once I got through the tutorial, and it took the gold and it depleted the things that I'd sold, but then none of the planks came in, because it was planks I was after to try and finish my second inn. They just didn't come in. Or if they did come in, they were used in another place, even though I'd already set the inn to my max priority, which seemed a bit weird. So I again ended up having to sell more resources, and then it worked. It just seems a little bit buggy on the front of it. To my understanding as well with trade, I think that's the only way that you can sell. You can't set it up to do it automatically yet. I don't know whether you will be able to in the full game, but that's a bit frustrating. In other games, you can set things to just be automatically sold if you've got too many of them or whatever. So it's a bit of a shame to see that you've got to manually do it. Building itself isn't too bad. You can, choose here and you can rotate. You've got a central key that you can use to, or control key I should say, to slowly rotate. But the game is very, very picky about what you put where. It doesn't like it if you put something, in its opinion, somewhere that it can't be done. And I'm not sure I'm okay with that. Like, just to be so picky so early on, especially when you have literally no sort of FOV at all, is a bit frustrating. Certain buildings will cost you gold, although a lot of them won't, and you can speed things up. You've got really nice animations when they're building things. You see them like tapping with the hammer and building things up, which is really nice. And again, the buildings themselves are very, very detailed, which is really, really cool. I'm a big fan of how detailed everything is. Outside of that, it's not too bad. It gets a bit finicky with assigning people to things. So if I was to buy a farm, for example, or a woodcutter, which will help us to make planks that we're going to need. So if we put a woodcutter there, you then have to choose people from the warehouse, which is odd. instead of, say, from the shelter. You have to choose them from the warehouse, and then once you've chosen them from the warehouse, you have to assign them to the building. You have to pick them up, hit pick, which I'm going to do here. So we will click on this person here, you'll filter, and then you pick, and then you've got to drop them down there. And this could be streamlined so much. Instead of doing all that, maybe just having a worker section, or a, you know, doing it from the statistics page here. Maybe being able to click on them and instead of filter, just a drop down menu to say where you want them to be placed, right? So instead of left clicking and seeing all their information, maybe right clicking, having a drop down menu, and you can choose what building you want to assign them to there, just to reduce the amount of clicks you actually get, because it feels really long-winded and it takes the pacing out of it a lot. And then outside of that, like, it kind of seems to just run on its own. And again, the tutorial just ends. You just do the last mission, but it doesn't tell you it's the last mission. It doesn't say, right, you're on your own. It just ends. So you sat there waiting for something else to happen, and then nothing ever does. It's just all a bit odd. It really is. So yeah, overall, I like the game. I like the premise that you're colonizing America. You're going in, you're working with, the native tribes and stuff. It's got a really cool first intro, which is skippable if you press space. But I just feel like the pacing and the finicky nature of everything, and the fact that a lot of things still seem quite buggy for the prologue, it makes me worried for the full release. It makes me worried as to what's actually going to happen and how it's actually going to be. Another problem, or another big problem for me at least, is the farm seems also a little broken. Whether it's the animation that's broken or whether it's the farm itself, I'm not entirely sure. But like, they would come and they would farm, and then the fields would sort of disappear even though they hadn't harvested yet, and your corn didn't go up, which was a bit weird and a bit odd. But again, it could have just been a visual bug. But there you are. This is Colonize, the prologue. Let me know what you think in those comments down below. Is this going to be one for you, or is it too buggy? Is it too finicky? Or are you just going to wait until the full game comes out? Thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you all next time. Ciao, ciao.